There are some people in life that just walk through the world like they own it. They are so confident. They radiate it off. It is an energy that you can feel. Being confident is not something that someone is born with. It's not a trait. It's not something like having blue eyes or being 6 feet. Being confident is a skill. It is a muscle that you train and then becomes an embodiment of who you are. There's this common phrase, fake it till you make it. Just embody confidence. I'm going to look in the mirror and tell myself that I'm strong and I'm powerful. I'm going to dress different. I'm going to show up differently. I'm going to do all these things. And these are beautiful things to put on the surface, give you that extra like those certain things do make you feel confident, but there's so much more that goes under the surface. Being a confident person is building a strong relationship with yourself where you trust yourself and you know yourself and you are so secure in who you are as a person and your internal validation that you don't let the realities of the world and the unpredictable flowing of people's opinions and thoughts and behaviors influence how you view yourself and how you act. Confidence is a muscle that you train to improve and you eventually embody over time based on the evidence and the experiences that you build for yourself. I've done a lot of work on building my own confidence, and I get told a lot by people that I come off as a very confident person, and I do feel confident a lot in my life, but this was not always the case. And growing up, especially in adolescent years, I was not a confident person. I was very far from it. I had a lot of insecurities, like a lot of people do growing up. I didn't let that define me. I wasn't like, well, I'm just not a confident person. I looked at people who were confident and I studied them and I watched videos from them and I learned from them. And I was like, how can I get to this point? Because we all have a confident version of ourselves that is waiting to be tapped into. And it is just us allowing ourselves to let that come forward. I used to be very hesitant to speak my mind, to share my opinions. I was so quiet and reserved growing up because I was so fragile in the way that I would let the world around me influence me and my own perspective of myself and how I knew myself. If someone didn't like me, if someone had an opinion about me, if I experienced something that was a bit odd, these things would affect me so deeply that I would get off balance really fast because I was not confident and I didn't know myself enough to a point where I could stand strong in who I was. And that is why I kept myself so small, because I didn't want the world to affect me. But when you become more confident, you're able to then be more expressive and share who you really are and be more authentic and honest about who you actually are and what you want to say and how you want to show up in this world. And that is how you actually make real authentic connections, because you're being more of yourself. And that is why being confident is not just a selfish thing that we do for ourselves and for our ego. It is how we show up in the world, it is how we heal ourselves, it is how we become free from the restraints of holding ourselves in our entire life and being scared all the time. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to build real, sturdy, lasting confidence with yourself. Now, before I talk about really building a strong relationship with yourself, I want to talk about this concept of caring what other people think. It is a direct fear that contradicts showing up confident with who you are. Really dissect why we care what people think. And I want to get back to that idea of like being fragile within your own self-identity and how harmful this can be when you are very fearful of things. When you have these things in yourself that you're not really confident in, you're not really sure of, you don't really know yourself, you're very influenced by other people's opinions and perceptions and views of you. But this is very dangerous because other people's perceptions, views, opinions, and advice that they give you are all filtered through their own story, through their own personal experiences, through their own life. And to even talk about this as a writer myself, talk about character POV, when you are reading a book in first person POV, you are not seeing the world in an objective truth. You are seeing it through the lens of that character and how they grew up, their beliefs, their values, their experiences, their wounds, everything that encompasses who that person is. So every character you're reading about, every experience, everything that that person witnesses is filtered through that person's POV. So that is why other people's opinions and views and perspectives and judgments of you is a reflection of their own lens that they are putting you through. If someone is viewing you in a certain way, it has a lot more to do with who that person is and what they value and believe and see and perceive than about you objectively as a person. And this is why I was trying to find an objective truth a lot growing up. And this is why I wasn't confident and I cared so much what people thought, because anyone's negative opinion or judgment or criticism was suddenly feeling like an objective truth about who I was as a person because I was so fragile in my identity. When you work on your own identity and you become strong in that, you start to not even let those things affect you because you don't see it as valid or true or real. I have this saying that really transformed is people's opinions about me is their business. It is not my business. Because if a random person has an opinion about me, that says a lot more about them than me because they don't know me. They don't know everything that goes on inside my head, every single reason why I do something, every single meaning behind everything I do and who I am as a person. They're only projecting who they are onto me. So for me to try to dissect and understand and analyze why they perceive something about me is a waste of time and frankly, kind of insane when you have that fragile identity. Anything that someone perceives about you, you internalize and you start to look within and you're like, well, is this who I actually am? And I saw this saying online and I wish I could give credit to who this is and I don't remember. But it's if someone were to come to me and say, I don't like your blue hair, I would not be affected. Because in my head, I'd be like, well, I don't have blue hair, so I'm not offended. Like, why would that affect me? They're clearly incorrect. So why would that affect me? Why would I care if they hate my blue hair? Because I don't have blue hair. And that is because I have such a secure knowing of who I am as a person. I know I have brown hair. So if someone were to say, I don't like your blue hair, I would be like, okay, whatever, let it roll off your back, right? The same thing goes to knowing who you are as a person. If someone came to me and said that I think you're dumb, I don't think you're smart, I don't think you're intelligent, I would be like, okay, you can think that. Because I know I'm very intelligent. I love my brain. I'm always learning. I'm always thinking. I'm always analyzing. I am very into learning and growing and thinking about things very deeply and in a very nuanced way. And that is why if someone came to me and were like, oh, you're ditzy, like, oh, like you don't know a lot, or like, oh, you're naive, I'd be like, okay. Because I'm so secure in that part of me that someone else's perception has no weight. So it just rolls over. But when you don't have that strong sense of security, when you don't have that identity built up, a long time ago, if someone said that, like, I don't think you're smart, I would start to internalize that and be like, maybe I'm not smart. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not smart. And then it would start to make me insecure and not show up confidently. So that's why when it comes to confidence, a big part of it is really knowing who you are and really standing by that and not letting things around you in the world tell you who you are. But how do you really know who you are? If you want to get to that point where you're like, I'm so secure in who I am that people's opinions don't bother me, how do you know who you are? And it comes down to spending time with yourself, spending quality time with yourself, and building examples and evidence and proof of the qualities and characteristics that you are. When it comes to knowing yourself, really spending time understanding who you are as a person and building that relationship with yourself. Now, I've always said that, like, you are your own best friend. I'm my own best friend. It is that you spend every moment of every day with yourself. You know, quality time with yourself. Treat it like a relationship. I journal to myself. I write letters to myself. I take pictures of myself. I take care of myself. I take myself out shopping. I take myself out on solo dates. I spend time with myself. I laugh with myself. I have inside jokes with myself. This is why I find it really important to sometimes have times of solitude in your life. I've gone through different chapters of solitude in my life based on different life events that have happened or certain chapters in my life that are a lot more to myself. And that's why when you have moments where you're completely alone and you don't have that external influence telling you things about who you are, it's a lot easier to really narrow down and thinking about who you are when no one's around. How do you act when no one's watching? What do you say when no one's listening? Those things are authentically who you are. And the more you allow yourself to understand that about yourself and then show up like that in real life, being confident isn't about ignoring your weaknesses or ignoring your failures. It is about owning them. Because that is the true thing about knowing yourself, is you let everything come to the surface where you're not hiding anything. You're not so scared that one of your weaknesses is going to be revealed. You own it. There are certain weaknesses that I have and I own it. I wear it on my sleeve. And I share a lot about that on this channel and about everything, and even my own journey about going through all the processes that I've been through. I am very transparent about the times where I've had doubts or I've had failures or I've had moments that have not been so pretty, is because I own it. And that's the thing, is when you take back those things and when you take power over it, no one can hold that against you. And it goes back to that saying of, like, if someone's commenting on you and you don't think it's true, it rolls over. The same thing happens if someone comments on something and you know it's true. It rolls over because you've already owned it. You already know who you are. A huge part about being confident is being comfortable with who you are as a person and not trying to hide. And that is why being authentic is really tied into being confident, because when you are confident in who you are, it's a lot easier to be authentic. And when you show up authentically, you come off a lot more confident. And that is why it doesn't really matter like how you do your hair or how you say things or how you walk in a room or how these things, like, yeah, they do have effects on how you appear confident. But when you're truly confident from within, it doesn't matter all the surface things. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is trusting yourself and building trust with yourself. When you have trust with yourself, you trust yourself to not only show up and do the things that you promise for yourself, but you also trust yourself in situations where you may be fearful or nervous or scared, because you have proof and evidence of being able to experience them and overcome them. If you make a promise to yourself to start going to the gym more, if you make a promise to yourself to pursue this goal that you've had for a long time, if you make this promise for yourself that you're going to start meal prepping, or you're going to be more social and talk to people that you're nervous to talk to, these things, when you promise yourself these things, and if you don't actually follow through with them, you are teaching yourself that you're not reliable. And that is why it's all about building a relationship with yourself, is because think about how you show up in friendships, how you show up in relationships, how you show up with your family, show up with yourself the same way. If you make a date with yourself that you're going to go to get coffee at 10 a.m., go get coffee at 10 a.m. Because it's the small things that build up over time where you build trust with yourself, because you build evidence of you following through on what you're going to say. This also goes to experiencing new things. Something that I was really bad at for a long time was talking to new people. I was very shy. I was very timid. I was always worried about saying the wrong thing or coming off the wrong way, because I was so focused on how the other person would perceive me and trying to almost like figure out that situation. And growing up in that way, I didn't trust myself to be able to say the right things, to do the right things in these situations. So what I did is I started challenging myself. I gained proof and experiences, and I started experiencing more. And when you start pushing yourself to experience more things, not only do you have more exposure therapy to these things and face more of your fears and know more of yourself, but you also start building real experiences that you can look back on as proof that you can overcome things. Knowing that you can overcome challenges and you can do hard things, and trusting yourself that you can show up for yourself when things get hard. And that is why I started really pushing myself to go talk to new people. And I remember in college, I was really, really big about talking to strangers, making connections, initiating connections, going out and talking to people. And by doing that more and more, I gained evidence and experiences of me actually doing this, and it became part of who I was, because I had real proof of me going out and talking to people. And because I did it so much and I gained that experience in knowing how I was as a person and how I show up, and I trusted myself and how I interact with people, that now in new situations, when I go meet new people, I'm very confident because I can trust myself, because I know I can rely on myself. I have my back when I'm in new situations. And this is also a big thing where pushing outside your comfort zone and really challenging yourself. I've done things that have absolutely terrified me, like solo traveling and going out into the world completely by yourself. And situations like that really build real self-trust, because when you're able to navigate a subway system in a different language in a completely new country when you just came off the plane by yourself, that is really scary. And when you can do that, you start to think, oh, I can do anything. I can talk to the stranger. When you start pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and you start building those experiences, you start gaining more trust on knowing you can trust yourself and back yourself in the situations. So you start gaining more confidence. That's the thing with confidence, is it can exist in many forms. You can be scared and be confident. You can be nervous and be confident. You don't always have to be cool, calm, and collected and be confident. After that solo trip, I then booked another solo trip to a different country. And even though I was scared and I was really nervous to go on that plane, I still knew that I could trust myself. The next thing I want to talk about is really knowing yourself and valuing your own opinion and making your own decisions for yourself, and not putting other people's decisions and opinions on pedestals above your own. And it starts with the small things. If you want to try a new hairstyle, you don't have to ask all your friends to see if it looks good on you. You can just do it. If you like a shirt, you don't have to text your friends to see if they like the shirt. You can just wear it. If you like a certain song, you don't have to look around to see if everyone likes the song. You can enjoy the song. It's trusting your own instincts and trusting your own opinion of things and your own decisions. And this is why, especially as I've gotten older as an adult, I really do make my own decisions. Now, if I really want advice from people, I will seek out advice from specific people that I know will help give me perspective. But at the end of the day, I know my life more than anyone. I know myself. I know who I am. I know my weaknesses. And that is why a lot of confidence is really following your instincts and really following your intuition and really trusting in your own gut instincts. When you make decisions for yourself, even if it is a bad decision, even if it ends up poorly, then you give yourself an experience where then you can prove to yourself that you can overcome that. So then when you do overcome that and you come out on the other end, you're like, okay, I can trust myself, because no matter how this decision goes, I know that I have my back and I know that is my own doing. Even coming from a book editor's perspective, when I work with authors, I always tell them that you know your story the best. I do not know your story better than you do. And that's why I come to them with, expertise and advice and different perspective and, evidence on why I think this opinion is this way, but they know their story the best and they get the final say. You are the author of your own story. You know your story the best. You are the protagonist of your own story. You have agency, you have goals, you have things that you know more than anyone. Again, going back to that thing, is everyone's perspective and knowing of you is a lens through who they are as a person, how they see themselves. So you're the only person that has like a full view of who you are. And obviously we do have blind spots, like that is true, but it's like you truly know who you are. And when you start moving through life with this lifestyle and with this mentality of trusting yourself and knowing who you are and going off of your own instincts and your guts and your opinions and not letting everyone around you and all the noise dictate exactly who you are, then you build so much internal trust and you are so strong as a person that no matter what life throws at you, no matter what obstacles you face, no matter what goes in your way, you are confident in yourself to be able to handle it and to be able to thrive and go through it. Confidence isn't something that you need to earn. It isn't something that you need to find or discover. It's something that you already have within you and you just need to allow it to come forward. I hope you leave this video feeling at least 1% more confident in who you are, because you deserve to feel confident, and I'm rooting for you.